Hi, my name is Alexandra Reed. I came home from work early that day because my design meeting got canceled at the last minute. I pulled into the driveway of my house by the lake in Minneapolis, keys already in my hand, ready for a quiet evening. The moment I stepped inside, the sound hit me first loud, heavy thuds echoing from the kitchen. I walked straight in and stopped dead. There was my dad, gripping a sledgehammer with both hands, smashing it down again and again into the brand new counters and cabinets I had designed myself. The $300,000 kitchen I had paid for out of my own savings was being torn apart right in front of me. Shards of granite and wood flew everywhere. My mom stood right beside him, directing two crew guys who were rummaging through the mess, pulling out drawers and yanking open cabinets like they were searching for something. My younger sister was in the middle of it too, holding a trash bag and scooping up pieces. None of them even looked up at first. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, my voice cracking. "Get out of my house, all of you." My dad turned, face red, and shoved me hard toward the door. "This is for your own good," he growled. My mom crossed her arms and snapped, "Just kick her out. She doesn't get to decide." They pushed me outside onto the porch and slammed the door. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the closed door of my own home. If you've ever been betrayed by your own family over something you worked so hard for, hit that like button right now, subscribe so you don't miss what happened next, and drop a comment. I read every single one. I pulled out my phone the moment I was alone. The security app opened right away on my screen. I tapped the kitchen camera timeline and started the playback from the exact minute I had walked in. The video showed everything in crisp detail. My dad lifted the sledgehammer high and brought it down hard on the island counter, cracking the thick granite surface I had chosen after months of samples. My mom stood next to him, pointing at the upper cabinets and giving directions to the two crew guys who were already emptying drawers and stacking the contents on the floor. "Make sure you check every corner," she said on the recording. "We need this space completely refreshed before we list the property." My younger sister, Destiny, held a large black bag open while one of the workers tossed in hardware and small appliances. She nodded at every instruction Mom gave, even helping sort through the broken pieces as if this was normal weekend work. I paused the video and saved the full clip to my cloud drive. This was not an accident or a surprise renovation. They had a clear plan to change the entire kitchen so they could sell my house without telling me. I owned this property outright. Every payment on the mortgage, every dollar for the $300,000 kitchen had come from my design contracts. They had no legal claim here. I dialed my lawyer immediately. "Mr." Harris answered on the second ring. I explained the situation in one steady breath. "This is Alexandra Reed. My dad is actively destroying my kitchen with a sledgehammer while my mom directs a crew and my sister Destiny helps them go through the mess. They have the idea that they can update the space and put my house on the market without my approval. I have the video from my own cameras showing all of it." He asked for the ownership documents and camera details. I confirmed the deeds were in my car and the system was registered only to me. He told me to forward the clip right then and stay away from the house until police arrived. "This qualifies as criminal damage to property," he said. "We'll file for emergency protection and get officers on site today. Send me the video now and I'll start the report." I attached the file and hit send while still sitting in my car in the driveway. The confirmation email came back instantly. My lawyer followed up with a text saying he was contacting the local Minneapolis police non-emergency line. I felt a small sense of control returning. This was no longer just family drama. It was now a legal matter with real consequences. I started the engine and backed out slowly. The road curved gently away from the lake, past the familiar houses with their trimmed lawns and boats parked in driveways. I kept my speed steady, not wanting to draw any attention. My mind kept replaying the video in my head. The way Mom had spoken so casually about listing the property made it clear this had been planned for some time. I wondered how long they had been discussing this behind my back, and how many times they had come to the house when I was at work. As I drove further down the suburban road, the trees began to thin out and the view opened up toward the main highway. I turned on the radio for a moment, but quickly turned it off again. Silence was what I needed to focus. My phone buzzed with another message from Mr. Harris confirming the video had been received and the police report was being filed. He reminded me to gather any additional paperwork I had in the car, including the original kitchen invoices and the property deed. I pulled over at a small parking area near the highway entrance to organize the papers. The folder in my glove compartment contained everything: the closing documents from when I bought the house 2 years ago, the contractor receipts for the kitchen remodel, and the installation records for the security cameras. I took photos of each page with my phone and sent them to Mr. Harris as backup. While I sat there, I thought about the last conversation I had with Mom. She had mentioned something about the market being good for selling in this neighborhood, but I had brushed it off as casual talk. Now it all made sense. She had been preparing for this. Destiny had probably been in on it too, since she lived closer to home and often helped with Mom's small renovation business. I put the folder back and pulled back onto the highway. The drive toward the city gave me time to breathe. The Minneapolis skyline appeared in the distance, tall buildings against the afternoon sky. I kept checking my phone for updates from the lawyer. He sent one more text saying the police were on their way to the house and would meet me at a safe location to take my statement. I exited the highway and headed to the coffee shop we had agreed on. The parking lot was nearly empty, and I sat in the car for a few minutes, looking at the lake photos on my phone from happier times. The kitchen had been my pride, the first big project I completed after moving in. Now it was being torn apart for someone else's gain. Mr. Harris called again to confirm the police would arrive within the hour. He advised me to stay calm and stick to the facts when giving my statement. I agreed and ended the call. The wait felt long, but I knew every minute brought me closer to protecting what was mine. The legal process had started, and I was ready to see it through. I sat in the parking lot and opened the folder on my lap. The property deed came out first, its pages crisp and official under the overhead light. I traced my finger along the lines that listed only my name as the owner, the county stamp and purchase date clear as day. No other signatures appeared anywhere. I set it aside and opened the kitchen packet next. The invoices detailed every line item from the granite selection to the appliance installations, with payment confirmations stamped paid in full from my accounts. The grand total stood at $300,000, every cent accounted for without a single contribution from anyone else. I arranged the pages in order and began photographing them one by one with my phone, adjusting the angle each time to capture every date and signature perfectly. Mr. Harris texted me while I worked, asking for the contractor's full contact details so he could request an official statement. I replied immediately and kept scanning. He followed up with a call a minute later, his voice steady as he walked me through the additional evidence we needed. He explained that the original hard copies would strengthen the claim of deliberate damage and help establish the full replacement value in any civil filing. I fed the papers through my portable scanner, watching the progress bar fill as each page digitized. He stayed on the line, confirming receipt of each file and reminding me to include the security system records as well. Those showed the cameras were installed and registered solely under my name. While the scanner hummed, earlier conversations with Mom replayed in my head. 6 months back, she had dropped by the house during one of my long work days. When I returned that evening, she mentioned how the neighborhood market was heating up and how a few cosmetic changes could push the listing price higher. I had shrugged it off, saying the place suited me fine as it was. She had smiled and moved on to talking about the weather, but the suggestion had stayed with me. Then there was the family barbecue last fall at their place. She brought up the topic again over dessert, noting that homes with updated kitchens sold faster and that her renovation crew could handle the work quickly. Dad had agreed with a nod, and Destiny had added that it would be a smart financial move. I had changed the subject, feeling the conversation turn uncomfortable, but I never imagined it would lead to this. I finished the last scan and emailed the complete set to Mr. Harris. He sent back a confirmation within seconds that the package was complete and ready for the police report. He advised me once more to keep all communication with family on hold until the investigation advanced. I closed the scanner and slipped the folder back into the glove compartment. The parking lot around me remained quiet, the afternoon light softening as clouds drifted across the sky. I started the engine and drove the short distance to the coffee shop right by the lake edge. The familiar wooden sign came into view as I pulled into the lot. I ordered a plain coffee at the counter and carried it to a table near the window. The water stretched out calm and wide, the distant boats rocking gently. I sat there, cup warm between my palms, and let the quiet settle around me. The legal process had solid footing now with the documents secured. I reviewed the photos on my phone one final time, making sure every important detail remained visible. The contractor's information sat ready for Mr. Harris to reach out. A few minutes passed as I watched the lake. The situation felt heavier with each recalled conversation, yet the paperwork gave me something concrete to hold on to. I knew the police would arrive soon at the house, and my statement would be based on facts alone. The afternoon continued, the coffee shop filling slowly with locals. I stayed at the table, mind focused on the next steps ahead rather than the chaos I had left behind. I finished my coffee and checked the time on my phone. Officer Reynolds arrived at the coffee shop exactly as Mr. Harris had promised. He introduced himself as Officer Reynolds, a tall man in his 40s with a calm demeanor that put me at ease right away. We sat at the corner table away from the windows. I handed him my phone with the video already queued up and watched as he played through the footage. His expression remained neutral while he took notes on a small pad. He asked for the ownership documents, which I slid across the table by E. He examined the deed and the kitchen invoices carefully, nodding at each page. 2 hours had passed since I left the house. Officer Reynolds radioed for backup and confirmed that a unit was already heading to the address. He explained the process in simple terms. The crew would be asked to leave immediately, and anyone still inside would face questions about the damage. He advised me to stay at the coffee shop until they secured the scene. I agreed and ordered another coffee while he stepped outside to coordinate. The minutes stretched as I stared at the lake. My mind stayed focused on the facts. The video showed clear intent. The documents proved sole ownership. Nothing else mattered in that moment. Officer Reynolds returned after 20 minutes and said the officers had reached the house. The crew members scattered as soon as the patrol cars pulled up. My dad stood on the porch, sledgehammer still in hand, while my mom tried to explain the situation from the doorway. Destiny stayed inside, gathering tools into a bag. I followed Officer Reynolds to the house in my own car. The driveway looked different now with 2 police vehicles parked at angles. The front door stood open. Inside, the kitchen appeared even worse than I remembered. Debris covered the floor, cabinets hung at odd angles, the island lay in pieces. Officer Reynolds asked my dad to step outside for questioning. My mom followed, her voice rising as she insisted this was a family matter and no crime had occurred. Destiny emerged last, avoiding eye contact with me. The officers separated everyone. One spoke with my dad on the lawn, while another interviewed my mom near the garage. Officer Reynolds stayed with me in the living room and took my full statement. I described arriving home, seeing the destruction, and being pushed out. I showed him the exact spot where the shove happened. He noted everything without interruption. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes without hesitation. My mom raised her voice from the garage area, claiming they only wanted to help modernize the space. My dad muttered something about parental rights. Destiny remained quiet, shifting her weight from foot to foot. The officers collected statements from the crew members who had not run far. One worker admitted receiving payment from my mom for the day's labor. Another confirmed she directed the entire job. Officer Reynolds finished writing and closed his notebook. He explained that the evidence supported a charge of criminal damage to property. The crew received warnings and left the premises. My parents and Destiny were told they could not return without my permission. My mom tried one last time to speak to me directly, but Officer Reynolds stepped between us and reminded her of the temporary no-contact order being processed. She turned away, lips pressed tight. I stood in the ruined kitchen after they left. The silence felt heavy. Shards crunched under my shoes as I walked to the window overlooking the lake. The afternoon light reflected off the water in steady ripples. The damage was extensive, but the proof was even stronger. I knew the next weeks would involve more paperwork and court dates, yet the immediate threat had been removed. The officers drove away, leaving tire marks on the gravel. I locked the front door and stood on the porch for a long moment, breathing the cool Minnesota air. The day had shifted from ordinary to chaotic in a single hour. Now the pieces lay scattered, both literally and figuratively. I called Mr. Harris to update him on the police visit. He confirmed the report had been filed and said he would prepare the civil suit for full restitution. His tone stayed professional, which helped steady my thoughts. I ended the call and looked around the empty rooms. The house felt different, yet it still belonged to me. The process of reclaiming it had started in earnest. The insurance adjuster arrived the following week with a clipboard and camera. He spent 3 hours measuring the kitchen and taking detailed photos from every angle. I handed him the original invoices and the police report. He nodded while flipping through the pages and said the claim looked straightforward based on the evidence. Replacement costs would likely exceed the original $300,000 because of current material prices and labor rates. He promised a full report within 10 business days. I walked him to the door when he finished and watched his truck disappear down the road toward the highway. Mr. Harris called later that afternoon with news about the criminal side. The county attorney had formally charged both my dad and my mom with criminal damage to property in the first degree. The charge carried potential jail time and a substantial fine. Destiny faced no criminal charges but had been listed as a witness. Mr. Harris explained that her statement to the police had been cautious, avoiding direct blame while not denying the events. I asked if she could still be called in civil court. He confirmed she could and that her testimony might prove useful if she chose to tell the truth under oath. I spent the rest of the day updating my spreadsheet. Each row now included the insurance visit, the criminal charges, and the expected timeline for the civil filing. The document had grown to 20 entries. I saved a backup copy to an external drive and emailed the latest version to Mr. Harris. He replied quickly that the case continued to build strong momentums. His office had also received a letter from Susan's lawyer proposing mediation. Mr. Harris recommended declining the offer. Mediation would only delay the process and give them a chance to negotiate down the amount owed. I agreed without hesitation. Destiny tried reaching me again through a mutual friend from high school. The friend left a voicemail saying Destiny wanted to explain her side and hoped I would listen. I deleted the message and blocked the friend's number as well. The attempts felt coordinated, each one testing whether I would crack and respond. I kept my focus on the facts instead. The video, the deeds, the bank records, and the police statements formed a solid wall that no conversation could break. 2 weeks turned into 3. Client deadlines kept me busy during daylight hours. The evenings belonged to the case. I reviewed contractor bids for the kitchen rebuild and selected a new company that specialized in high-end remodels. The owner visited the house and gave me an estimate higher than the original, but with better materials and a faster completion date. I signed the contract after checking his references and insurance coverage. Work could begin once the insurance payout cleared and the court issued its orders. Susan sent a handwritten letter to my office address. The envelope arrived in a plain white mailer with no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Inside, she described how much stress the family had been under and how they thought they were helping secure my future. She mentioned health concerns for my dad and financial pressures on her small business. The letter ended with a plea to drop everything so we could move forward as a family out. I scanned the pages and forwarded them to Mr. Harris as additional evidence of continued contact. He added them to the file and reminded me to keep saving everything. The arraignment date approached. Mr. Harris prepared me for what to expect in court. We would not need to speak unless called. The judge would review the charges and set conditions for release. My presence was optional, but recommended to show the seriousness of the matter. I decided to attend. The courtroom in downtown Minneapolis felt formal and quiet when I arrived. I sat in the back row and watched as my parents entered with their attorney. They avoided looking in my direction. Destiny was not present that day. The judge read the charges aloud. Both pleaded not guilty. Bail conditions included no contact with me and no returning to the property. The criminal case would continue to trial unless a plea deal emerged. Mr. Harris nodded with satisfaction as we left the building. He said the no-contact order now carried the full weight of the court. Any violation would strengthen our civil position even further. I drove home that evening feeling the weight of the process but also its progress. The legal steps continued moving forward one document at a time. The house waited for repairs, while the case against my family gained solid ground. Each new development added another layer of separation. The distance felt necessary and permanent. The summons for the civil deposition reached their attorney the next business day. Mr. Harris scheduled the session in a neutral conference room downtown. I arrived early and reviewed my notes while waiting. The stenographer set up her machine at the head of the table. When my parents entered with their lawyer, the tension filled the space immediately. Destiny followed a few steps behind, carrying a small notebook she never opened. The questions began with basic confirmations of identity and relationship. My dad answered in short sentences, avoiding eye contact across the table. My mom provided longer responses, attempting to frame the incident as a misunderstanding rooted in concern for my financial future, Mr. Harris directed the inquiry toward the planning phase. He asked how long they had discussed the kitchen project before acting. My mom admitted the idea surfaced several months earlier during casual family dinners. She described showing my dad examples of modern kitchens from her renovation portfolio. Destiny confirmed she had been present for some of those talks, but claimed she viewed them as hypothetical. When pressed on the specific date they decided to proceed without my knowledge, both parents grew silent until their attorney objected on grounds of relevance. The judge presiding over the deposition overruled the objection and instructed them to answer. The video evidence played on a large screen next. Mr. Harris paused at key moments where instructions were clearly given. My dad acknowledged holding the sledgehammer but insisted he acted under direction. My mom maintained she believed the work fell under general family maintenance rights. Destiny shifted uncomfortably in her seat when the footage showed her holding the trash bag. She stated she participated only to help and did not question the authority behind the project. Afternoon sessions covered the financial motive. Bank records revealed recent inquiries into my property value through public records. My mom explained it as routine curiosity for market trends in the neighborhood. Mr. Harris presented emails between her and a real estate agent discussing listing strategies for homes with updated kitchens. The correspondence carried dates well before the incident. She denied any intent to sell without consent, but the timeline contradicted her account. By late afternoon, the deposition concluded. Mr. Harris gathered the transcripts and thanked the stenographer. Outside the building, he told me the session had strengthened our position considerably. The inconsistencies in their statements would prove valuable in front of a judge. I drove home through the evening traffic, the city lights reflecting off the lake as I crossed the bridge. The legal machinery continued turning with each new filing and response. Discovery continued over the following weeks. Additional affidavits arrived from the contractor who installed the original kitchen. He detailed the custom specifications and confirmed all payments came exclusively from my accounts. The insurance company released its final assessment, supporting the elevated replacement cost due to inflation and supply chain factors. Mr. Harris incorporated every document into the growing case file. Destiny requested a private meeting through a third party. I declined and instructed Mr. Harris to note the attempt as further evidence of contact. My dad sent a single text message from an unknown number apologizing for the escalation. I forwarded it immediately and blocked the source. Each attempt reinforced the need for the permanent boundaries the court would soon enforce. The trial date was set for the following month. Mr. Harris prepared opening arguments focused on property rights and the breach of trust. He warned that the defense might appeal to emotion in front of the jury. I prepared myself to testify if called, keeping my responses factual and unemotional. The case had moved beyond personal feelings into the realm of documented violations and measurable damages. As the calendar pages turned, the weight of the proceedings settled into routine. Each step built upon the last, creating an unbreakable chain of evidence. The house stood ready for its eventual restoration while the courtroom battle determined the full extent of accountability. The process demanded patience, yet every filing brought the resolution closer. The courtroom doors opened at 9 sharp on the morning of the hearing. Judge Harlan took his seat and called the case to order. The gallery remained sparse, only a few observers present. Mr. Harris stood at our table with the organized binders ready. My parents sat at the opposite side with their attorney, both appearing tired under the fluorescent lights. Destiny occupied a seat in the front row as a potential witness. Though she had not yet been called, the proceedings began with opening statements. Mr. Harris outlined the core issue: deliberate destruction of privately owned property without consent or legal right. He emphasized the documented value of the kitchen and the clear video evidence of the acts. The defense attorney countered by portraying the incident as an overzealous attempt at family assistance, suggesting emotional rather than malicious intent. Judge Harlan listened without interruption, then moved to the presentation of evidence. The video played on the courtroom monitor in full. Every thud of the sledgehammer echoed through the speakers. The judge watched intently, pausing the footage himself at moments where instructions were audible. Mr. Harris called the first witness, the lead police officer who had responded that day. He recounted the scene upon arrival, the scattered crew, and the statements collected. Cross-examination yielded little change in his account. Next came the insurance adjuster. He detailed the extent of the damage and the current market costs for identical materials and labor. The figure exceeded $300,000 due to recent price increases. The defense attempted to challenge the valuation, but the supporting invoices and contractor bids held firm under questioning. I took the stand in the afternoon. Mr. Harris asked straightforward questions about ownership, the cost I had personally covered, and the impact of the incident. I answered factually, describing the moment I entered the house and the immediate confrontation. The defense attorney tried to introduce questions about past family dynamics, but the judge sustained objections and kept the focus on property loss. My dad testified briefly. He admitted swinging the sledgehammer, but claimed he believed the work was authorized. My mom followed, repeating her earlier explanation of concern for my future. Their attorney highlighted financial pressures on their side, yet the evidence of premeditation outweighed the narrative. Destiny was not called to testify that day, as the judge determined her input was not essential for the liability phase. Closing arguments wrapped up by late afternoon. Mr. Harris stressed that family relationships do not override legal ownership. The defense urged leniency based on intent. Judge Harlan retired to chambers and returned within the hour with his ruling. He found both my dad and my mom liable for the full replacement cost. The judgment included the updated valuation plus legal fees and court costs. A permanent no-contact order was issued for 5 years, covering me, my property, and any communication attempts. Criminal records would reflect the findings, affecting future background checks and employment opportunities for both. Any violation of the order would result in immediate contempt charges with jail time possible. The gavel struck once, finalizing the decision. My parents sat motionless as the reality settled. Their attorney began speaking in low tones about possible appeals, yes, but the window for immediate action had closed. I remained seated until the judge left the bench. Mr. Harris shook my hand and confirmed the judgment would be enforceable within days. The courtroom emptied slowly around us, outside on the steps. The Minnesota air felt cooler than inside. I walked to my car without looking back. The legal battle had concluded in my favor with clear, enforceable consequences. The house could now move forward toward full restoration without further interference. The chapter with my family had ended through the court's formal decree rather than any personal reconciliation. Work crews arrived at the house the week after the judgment. They cleared out the remaining debris and began installing the new kitchen according to my updated plans. The granite I selected this time carried a deeper tone, and the cabinet layout maximized the natural light from the lake-facing windows. Each delivery brought fresh materials that replaced what had been destroyed. I stopped by daily after work to check progress, watching the space transform step by step. The contractor kept to the schedule. And within 4 weeks, the final fixtures were in place. I transferred the full insurance payout plus the court-ordered restitution into the project account. The total covered every expense with a small amount left over for future upgrades. No further communication came from my family after the permanent order took effect. The 5-year restriction meant blocked numbers, returned mail, and legal consequences for any attempt to reach me. I changed the locks one final time and updated the security system with new codes known only to me. The completed kitchen felt entirely mine. Morning light reflected off the counters while I prepared coffee in the quiet space. The house by the lake stood restored and protected. I hosted a small gathering for close colleagues who had supported me through the process. Conversations stayed light, focused on design and future projects rather than the past events. The weight of the legal battle had lifted, leaving behind clarity about boundaries. Looking back at the entire sequence, one truth stood out clearly. Family ties do not grant automatic rights over another adult's property or decisions. When trust breaks through deliberate actions, the law provides the necessary separation and accountability. Protecting what you have built requires documentation, quick response, and willingness to follow through even when emotions run high. I learned to verify ownership papers regularly and to treat even close relationships with the same legal respect given to strangers. The experience strengthened my independence without erasing the memory of what occurred. The Minnesota seasons continued their cycle around the house. Snow would soon cover the lake edge, but inside the kitchen remained warm and functional. I kept the security cameras active and the no contact order on file. No appeal succeeded in overturning the judgment, and the financial obligations were met through wage garnishment where necessary. The chapter closed with finality rather than reconciliation. I continued my design work with renewed focus. New clients appreciated the story of resilience when shared in professional settings. The lesson stayed simple yet powerful: secure your assets, document everything, and never assume shared blood overrides personal rights. The house by the lake now represented more than a home, it stood as proof that boundaries, once enforced through proper channels, create space for genuine peace and control over one's own life.